job. But you learn a lot of things, not only of yourself, but I think of faith. If he fixed every single thing for everybody, how would we ever know how to live and live on our own? Second, deny that there was somebody else watching over you, and that someone else is God, Jesus Christ. Persevere.
Welcome to Primetime Game Changers. I hope you really enjoyed that intro and that waiting screen. I mean, that was pretty impactful, but we are excited for this special episode today with NFL Hall of Famer, quarterback Brett Favre. But before we bring him on camera here, guys, how are you doing? We've got my dad's special guest as well, Pastor Hank Kuhneman, with Pastor Anthony and I today. But Dad, how are you doing?
Man,
thanks for being here.
It is an honor to be here. And I got to say this, I don't know how, you know, y'all got me to come, because here's the thing. Every time I have you on my show, I provide food. They hit me up with DoorDash orders and all kinds of stuff, and I'm sitting here like in a fasting condition. And then I don't know how you got Brett on. Did you send DoorDash to his house? But anyway, it's an honor to be here. And Matt, we're getting ready to celebrate your birthday.
Yeah,
this is really
it.
special, so I'm honored to be here. And I came to have some fun, man.
Well, we appreciate you being here. You know, you're a man of completely off the radar, just nobody knows what you're going to say.
Oh, no.
And I think you and Brett very much go together in that. We don't know what's going to come out of your guys' mouths.
We're two dangerous dudes.
Yeah.
Let's just say it.
But I also want to introduce a panel. We've got producer Jacob, and then Officer Herrick with him, and we'll definitely have to show that shirt once we get Brett on camera. And then we've got Game Changer Willie, my good buddy Willie Dyson, and we appreciate all the hard work you do for the ministry and for the podcast, the show, everything you do for Game Changers, the brand, and we really appreciate that. Wanted to bring you and, Herrick on, as you guys both played, football. You guys were both, pass rushers and everything, and then you got Brett and I, who played quarterback. Dad was a wide receiver, a kick and punt returner.
No, wait. I'm the only one, Matt, on this show. Brett and I are the only two that have something in common. We both actually were part of the NFL. I don't know if many of our viewers know that, but, the legacy of Brett. But a lot of people don't know my history of the NFL. And so, we do have that in common. His was the National Football League. Mine was the NFL, the Neighborhood Football League. And so both of us have something in common, just Brett and I. So that's what makes this show unique, Brett, as we get ready to have him come on. We need to talk about that.
Yeah. So before we get started, any announcements, anything coming that people need to be tuning into with, Game Changers? Obviously, Dad, we've also got that conference coming up, OTH.
Yeah.
And
hey, you know what? I don't want to put Brett on the spot, but we ought to see if he could come just for one night.
Yeah, you can ask him when we get him on the
maybe I don't want to put him on the spot, but maybe I'll just throw it out there and then, let him pray about it.
So, Jacob, we've got a couple books coming out, Dad's book, my book, and Pastor Anthony's book. But we've got Miller Days obviously going on, that Game Changer is going to be at tonight. So tell the people kind of what we've got coming. And then obviously we're impacting the college campuses all next week as well.
Yeah, we've got actually a lot of stuff going on. Tonight, of course, like you said, is Millard Days. And so we're going to be here in Millard. Game Changers is running a booth. We're going to have some giveaways. We're going to have some games for families. And then next week, we're going to UNO's campus for Durango Days. We're going to have a booth set up all week. So if you're at UNO, swing on by. We've got some free stuff. We're doing giveaways. We'll be there. We'll be doing some recordings actually all week, so that next Friday is actually going to be kind of a compilation of all the stuff that we did. It's going to be super cool. And then at OTH, if you haven't registered for OTH, what are you doing? You absolutely need to. And since you're already registered then, go ahead and say, yes, you're interested in a Game Changers event. We are doing an event there. We just want to know how many people so that we get enough space. So go ahead and say, yeah, I'm interested in the Game Changers event. We're going to be there. It's going to be an awesome event. Pastor Matt, Pastor Anthony, they're releasing a book. Pastor Hank's got a new book. We're going to have awesome new merch. I'm wearing a GC shirt right now. You can get a different one because you can't have this one. It's mine. But we're gonna have all kinds of cool merch there at the at OTH for you to buy. Also, swing by our website. You can get shirts, pants, guys, girls, kids. We've got all kinds of cool stuff on there. Swing by the Game Changers Hit Shop. All kinds of awesome stuff. Help support what we're doing out here in the community, and then obviously the show. What else have we got going on? We've got all kinds of channels.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Pray.com, OVTV. There's a lot of places to find us. All those places at Primetime Game Changers. Go ahead and follow us. Give us a like. Subscribe, and you'll be able to keep up with everything that we're doing. Other than that, I think that's it.
Yeah, and shout out to Pray.com for what they do for Game Changers, and obviously also, Dad, your ministry with One Voice Ministries.
Appreciate it.
Primetime Game Changers has really benefited from even just being on Pray.com. So, shout out to you guys over there. I know you guys are really impacting a lot of people around the globe, and it's just amazing that you guys even have our show on that app.
Well, I heard rumors that they were thinking about potentially coming to OTH. There was some stuff getting tossed around, and we want to give a shout out about Opening the Heavens Conference. This is hosted by Pastor Hank and Pastor Brenda, and it's just a phenomenal time of just coming together as the body of Christ and seeing the Lord move.
In a big arena. That's what
big arena.
Incredible.
And people come from all over, even outside of the U.S. It's an amazing time. And even with the Game Changers with our event, we had people from England. We had people from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
I mean, so it's just an amazing time to come together. So this is the year you don't want to miss. Make sure to get there.
Yes. So I don't think we should labor anymore. I'm excited for our special guest. And guys, he's been on the show before. We have seen what he's done, taken a stand around the nation. Obviously, what he did at President Trump's rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin, just a couple weeks before the election was incredible. Any of you that watch football, the career that Brett had as a Hall of Famer, retiring with every major passing record, and just a legendary career, stuff that we all grew up at night watching Monday Night Football, seeing what he did, to honor his dad, all the records, everything, the starts, 297 straight, 321 if you include the postseason and the playoffs with that. It's unbelievable. So guys, at this time, let's welcome Brett Favre back to Primetime Game Changers.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the intro.
Glad to, oh, man.
Go Pack! The intro was awesome.
Did they really put the Go Pack Go chant on?
That's amazing.
Yeah, and you're a Packer. You are not a Viking. You are not a Jet. You are not a Falcon. I know you played for the Vikings. You ran out of the Lambeau Tunnel. We'll have to discuss that, I'm sure. We didn't do that on the first show, but you are a Packer, and that is a fact. You are honored. That is where your name is on those walls over there at Lambeau, and you will forever be remembered as a Green Bay Packer.
Hey, can I say this, Matt? I'm jumping in. So, Brett, it's great to have you here. Again, I don't know how they talked to you to get on the show with, I know you got food there. You're just not showing us. But I want to say this to Brett. First of all, you are an amazing human being, and you're an amazing athlete. But, I go up to the Green Bay Packer games with Matt, and I just want to honor the gift in you, Brett. And really, you really have now a gift that God is really going to bring out that is going to really touch people for Jesus in a great way. But your gift that God gave you all over Lambeau Field, when I go to games, I see more number 4s than I see any other number, even to this day. And people still, when you get into conversations, they say there was no greater quarterback than you, Brett. And I know you're humble enough where, you can handle me saying that, but it's the truth. And so we just celebrate you and thank you for honoring my son. And I want to just say this last intro before I'm going to just kind of back out and let you guys we're going to have fun. But all the powerful prayer. Matthew would be 2-3 years old, and we would pray at night together, even when he was 5. And, I'm tucking him in, and we'd pray for everybody. And he always wanted to pray for Brett and his family. And then he would say, and God, I want to meet Brett Favre. And I'm thinking, God, come on, you're not going to. I didn't believe. I mean, I didn't believe. Brett, I did not believe. I'm sitting here going, yeah, God, sure, okay, just, And he would pray, I want to meet Brett Favre. And then when he would go to, career day at school, he wanted to wear his helmet at the age of 5, and he wanted to dress up like Brett. And they said, what do you want to be when you get big? I want to be Brett Favre. That's what he would say. And then the teacher said, oh, you want to be Brett Favre? Yeah, and I'm going to meet him too. I like Matt.
And we did.
And you did.
Yeah,
here you are. Okay, so that's the point. So, Brett, thank you for honoring Matt. And you've been a great friend, so thank you.
That food out there in Mississippi is no joke, man. When we had dinner that night on my 30th birthday a couple years ago, oh, my gosh, I got to go back to that restaurant.
Yeah, it's not good for you, but it certainly tastes good.
Yeah, the problem is it looks like...
So speaking of food, do you have a favorite restaurant up in Green Bay? Because there's a few I actually really like. Did you ever go to Bay Motel, that breakfast place on Military?
No, you know what? The one place that we probably went to the most, and it's still there, it's called Prime Quarter.
Oh, yeah, we've been there. Where you make your own steaks or whatever?
Yeah, you cook your own or you have them cook it. It's kind of a neat.
That's where we went with Mom on Mom's first day. Mom loved that place.
So you know what I did there, Brett? So, I used to be a chef before I got married at just turned 23. So I was a chef before, I married Brenda. And so I kind of retired from it. I don't know if you ever heard of Chef Boyardee. So that was my chef experience, and I would just pour stuff out of the can, the lasagnas, the SpaghettiOs. So when I went to that restaurant, Matt's like, Dad, you actually get to cook a steak. And I'm like, I don't know how to cook. I've been married 36 years. I don't know how to cook. So I just handed the steak to Brenda, and she made a great steak. So I love that place. If you, the meat is great, and the chef, Brenda, was amazing.
Yeah,
so there you go.
yeah. Well, thank you, Brett, for being on. We talked a lot last time about, just this nation. We talked a lot about your career and things like that. So tell us a little bit about, that rally you just did with President Trump and going back to your roots in Green Bay. And that was the day that, he had that, did that garbage truck thing. I think he left Austin Struble Airport in that garbage truck, and he had that vest on, and you had that picture with him and stuff. But what was that like in that moment? And honestly, I got to give you credit. I think that single-handedly alone won Trump the state of Wisconsin, without a doubt.
Well, thank you, Matt. It wasn't my cup of tea. Political, did I ever think or foresee myself speaking at a political rally? No. But I think, what compelled me to go do it was our country's in limbo. Mm-hmm. And the common sense part of it is what it baffles me. Take the Republican, take the Democrat, the terms, and just throw them out the window and just think common sense. Mm-hmm. It seemed like that has gotten skewed quite a bit. And I felt like that it was the right thing to do. I knew that there would be a lot of haters come out and the evil comments on social media and all that stuff, but I was ready for it. I'm 55, soon to be 56. And, as I said, the common sense, just the simple things that we as in this country have taken for granted, mm-hmm. have gotten skewed so bad. And I think my voice and other people's voices is desperately needed. You got to suck it up and just take the evil comments and just let them blow by you, and just offering my perspective on the common sense. I just felt compelled to do it. I don't know what else. I knew that. Yeah. We talked about it as a family, and I think collectively, when the president asks you to do something, that doesn't mean you have to do it, but it made perfect sense to me to just, I didn't go in there and talk about physics because I don't know anything about physics. I didn't talk about things that I don't know. I talked about things that I do see and live daily.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in that moment, I mean, the reception you got in there was incredible too. I mean, because that's in the Resch Center just across the street from Lambeau, right? It's right over there off, is it Dream Drive? Like in between Oneida and Holmgren Way, right? So it was just right over there. And I mean, the amount of reception that you got was just unbelievable. That's and I watched it. It was just truly special. And, I could tell that President Trump got a kick out of it too, in that moment. And that was just a couple weeks before the election, but it was powerful.
Listen, I think you were fantastic. I think you were terrific. I think you helped save America. I think you're huge. Listen, way to go. I think you're fantastic.
Yeah.
I think he's the greatest. Listen, I think he's the greatest guy that's ever played. I think he's that good.
That's pretty doggone good. Yeah. If pastoring doesn't work out for you, you got to.
But Brett, I do a better Ronald Reagan. Have you ever heard my Ronald Reagan?
I want to hear it again. I've heard it, but I want to hear it again.
Well, certainly yes. Now, let's suppose that your mom. Well, what was the question?
Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Thinking about the country, though, you mentioned just it's like a lot of common sense. has gone out the window. And, one thing that, Anthony, you and I have talked about is the power of our words, our thoughts, etc. And there's a lot of people, especially Brett, within our generation that we're seeing in our country that they don't know what side to choose, what to do, and common sense is just out. They've picked, trends instead of standing for truth. Culture has shifted. And so, we've really kind of talked about, titling this broadcast today, really the power of the silent snap count. And you and I obviously played quarterback. So one thing that, I remember is having to sometimes go into a hostile environment on the road, and you have to go to the line of scrimmage, and it's like, we've got to do some sort of a silent snap count here. And I mean, obviously in the NFL, you probably had several of those, 80,000 people plus, and you're on the road, it could be the Metrodome, wherever you're playing, a hostile environment like Dallas back in the 90s. And, Frank Winters is your center, or, Scott Wells, Mike Flanagan, those kind of guys. And I'm sure you had to have that kind of communication, talk about that. Like, what was that like having to use a silent snap count? Because again, and I think of it in a spiritual way, it's not giving the devil a place to, the Bible talks about there's death and life in the power of your tongue, your words. And so, it's hard for a defense, and we got some defensive guys here that'll chime in a minute on how hard that was for a defensive guy like Warren Sapp's sitting across from you, and you're on a silent snap count. They can't jump your snap. They don't know when you're snapping that ball, So talk about that even from the NFL perspective and all that crowd noise, everything, and having to do that.
Well, one game comes to mind, and it was the Saints game in the championship, my first year in Minnesota.
Yeah.
The loudest venue ever. Now, I've played in the Superdome many times before, including the Super Bowl. None of those other times, including the Super Bowl, could match the deafening noise in there for the championship game. You got to keep in mind, the Saints at that time had never been to the Super Bowl, and they were on the verge of their first ever. So that place was at a fever pitch. And it was the first play, I can't remember the exact verbiage, but it was, I know it was 322 Y stick. And we had a motion. Now, we had practiced, the day before, we had walked through our first 15 plays. So we knew exactly what we were going to start the game with. And I don't know how much you remember that Saints team, but they blitzed from everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, we had worked, there was one blitz in particular, 55, and I still remember this, Scott Fajita.
Yes.
If he walked up to the strong side line of scrimmage outside the tight end, they were coming with an overload blitz to his side. We practiced it all week. We practiced silent count. You're not going to hear it. It's going to be deafening. You got to be really on your P's and Q's and split. I mean, you better be spot on. So, because you're not going to hear someone say, Fajita's coming.
Yeah.
You just not. Well, sure enough, first play of the game, they're coming with the overload blitz. So I'm going to have a hot route to my tight end. My right tackle's got to block 55. He's got a guy over him, but that guy over him is going to slant down to the guard, and the right tackle will then step out and take 55.
Yeah.
That trust factor is there for all of us. Well, my right tackle totally doesn't see the blitz, and 55 just drills me right in the chest. And I thought to myself, and it was almost picked, first play of the game. And I thought, this is going to be a long night because it's only going to get worse. And little did I know, we would drive down the field after that play on the first drive and score a touchdown, and it was on after that.
Wow.
But that was like in the huddle. The only time you would talk would be in the huddle. And I'm trying to get the play out, and every guy is looking at me like, what'd you say? And I was having the screams. I was hoarse the next day, completely hoarse and screaming the whole time.
So
it was chaotic.
How in that moment do you guys communicate your silent snap count? Was it you're just lifting your knee? Was it like, obviously under center, it could be a tap on the center's butt or something, but.
Yeah, well, I did the leg lift, but also I would tap my inner thigh. So the only people that needed to know was me and the center.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would tell my center, hey, this time I'm going to I'm going to lift my leg. And the next time, like on the sidelines, I would say, next time we go out, I'm going to pat the inside of my thigh.
Man.
And so you just try to change it up so they don't get a key on it.
Yeah.
But that's easier said than done when you're playing in a hostile environment like that.
So Willie and Officer Herrick, you guys were edge rushers just like Scott Fujita. I mean, what's your kind of take on that going against something like that? Like Brett and I played quarterback, so like we were trying to confuse guys like you, lining up against us. And I mean, obviously Herrick and I, we were teammates and we competed in practice, but not in games. I mean, we had our fair share of trash talk back in the day. But Willie, you played for the Minnesota, Golden Gophers in Division I college football, Big Ten. I mean, what was that like if, a silent snap count was coming, from a quarterback perspective? You played obviously defensive end. So
Yeah, I think one of the funny things about that when you play against the silent snap count is you're not used to it. So your natural tentative reactions in a game are just to look for the cadence or to look for some type of subtle movement. But I think it's interesting because when you get that silent snap count, it literally wrecks your whole day. Because I'm just being honest, like you have studied film all week and all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to listen for something. And you walk up to the line and it's crickets. And you're like, that's it. It's going to be a long night. And I remember, one of the big things I remember, honestly, is that it put the offense in such a great advantage. But here's the thing. From a spiritual side, I just feel this to share this, but is we have a tendency when we're on offense, okay, just talking for Brett and Pastor Matt, once God calls in a play, you don't have to throw up all over the play by calling too many audibles. And what happens is in today's culture is that silent snap count has been forgotten in today's culture. And if we could just do that, if the offensive side of us as the body of Christ could be quiet once God calls a play and let it run out, you would see a lot more mistakes by the enemy in everything that over everybody's life, whether it be personal, finances, business, and just like that too. So for me personally, yeah, the silent snap count goes a long way. It goes on and off the field of your life. If we can learn to just trust what God said instead of asking and talking and just know that God's going to fulfill it. It's the same thing on the field. Just wait for somebody to move and make it happen. But yeah, it causes the enemy, it causes the defense a lot of chaos because you have to jump, you have to hope, you have to overthink. And me personally, I remember in high school, the state semifinal game, we were playing Hazelwood East. I'm from St. Louis. And I remember that was the first time I'd ever heard the silent snap count. And I'm pretty sure I jumped off sides like 3 times. I'm just being honest. I'm pretty sure I jumped off field like 3 times. And the coach is like, are you going to figure this out? I go, maybe I will, maybe I won't. That's not really up to me. But yeah, I think it's a great tool.
Yeah. So Brett, obviously over the years, everybody knew your blue 58, or green 18 hut. I mean, and Rodgers carried the green 19 thing, his whole entire career. How do you, over the years, when you're a 20-year vet, people kind of tend to know that count? I mean, obviously you could do different fluctuations and, maybe add more to the green 18, or something like that. But it's like people tend to know, oh, well, we know Brett's cadence. We know Brady's cadence. We know Rodgers' cadence, and things like that. So how do you still, you and Rodgers were guys that were magicians at getting people to jump off sides when you did use a loud count.
Over time, and I always told people, like, I started kind of doing these after I'd hand off. I would do like jump passes and whatever. Like I didn't have the ball in my hand, but I would, and I would always I would hand off and turn around and jump like I was going to throw, and I'd get the defensive end to jump up, and I was like, first of all, he's an idiot.
Willie, did you have your fair share of jumping like that? Brett would have faked you on that, man.
I don't know. I was pretty smart.
But, I'm in practice and I'm using that. And I'm like, hey, I may be onto something. And so all of this kind of developed from boredom. Same thing with the snap count. It was the same snap count in practice all the time. But as I got older, I started looking for ways, like you said, when teams, I played Chicago twice every year. Urlacher, very smart, instinctive guy. Lance Briggs, the other linebacker, super smart. You just not going to go in there and beat them at their game. No. So you had to, they knew the checks. They knew all the stuff that we did because we played them so much. So what I had to do was, and Mike Holmgren used to say it best. He was like, when we had a razzle-dazzle play or something new that may work, it may be a big deal, or it may come back to haunt us. He would always say, hold on to your left one. and I thought to myself, is that what I think it means? Yes, that's what so like what I mean by that. But so like we 3rd and 12 in Chicago, it's loud, and maybe they blitzed on that down distance, maybe they didn't.
Yeah.
Well, you want to make sure you know what they're going to do, so you go with a longer count. Well, to change it up, they know that too. So I would say first sound, which you hold on to your left one, because you don't have if they blitz. I'm banking on if they blitz, they're going to be caught off guard, and they're not going to get there on first cadence. So I'd walk up the line and say, usually I'd say, go, blue 18. Yeah. So I would say first sound. So I was rolling the dice.
Yes.
And that way, the next time you were in that down and distance, they would say, I'd be ready for the quick count. So I would get them to show what they were going to do.
Yeah. Ryan said he has the cadence, actually, one of our media guys, if they want to play that so we can actually get like a sound of what it sounds like. I'm telling you.
And then I want to comment about the hands in the air from a fellow NFL guy. Yeah. Mine was the neighborhood football league. But I just want to talk into this for a minute with the hands up, Brett. I have an interesting perspective about that you might want to hear there. Okay, go.
Yeah, go ahead and play it, Ryan, so we can hear it.
Blue 58, 30%. Blue 58, 30%. Blue 58, 30%.
So, yeah, at the end there, what are you saying at the end of the blue 58? Because that was right before the third. Is it 30 set?
I would say like green 18 set up.
Yeah.
But it didn't really matter, and I would joke with people all the time because they would ask me about the count, and I said, and I would actually do this in games. Like, it really didn't matter what the last part was. The ball was coming up. So if I said on one, the typical cadence would be green 18. I'd go up to the line. I would say go or move.
Yeah.
Just kind of a starting point. Then I would say green 18 set up. Well, when I said green 18 the second time, the ball was about to be coming up, because
that's how you mess with the defense. Yeah.
So, there were times like we would be playing Chicago, and I would say, go, green 18, bear sucked.
Oh, that's it. And they still do. I mean, that's the beauty of it,
I mean, in the toughest of times, there would be giggles, like in the huddle. Like, did you just say bear suck? I'm like, yeah, but you snapped it on time.
That's great. So, we did something similar to that, actually, in high school. We had this kid who had something on another team, and he had some, I don't know, thing that went on with the school or something, and then this, I don't know, we heard about it. We found out, did some digging. Some guys on the team knew this kid, so they all thought it'd be funny. They're like, Matt, you ought to say something. And so I think it was something about his sister or something. So we mentioned his sister's name, and I literally said his sister's name, snapping the ball, just like you said, just to tick him off. And so the rest of the game, he was just no show. The moment we came out with that cadence, that guy locked up the rest of the game. And he was a linebacker. I'll never forget it.
The flip side of that, one year we're playing in Minnesota, probably year 3 or 4, John Randall's at his, he's at his peak. He was almost unblockable, but he was a very smart player. And we walk up to the line, and Frank Winters is my center. Frank's wife was Alita, and his two daughters were Aubrey and Alexa. So we walk up to the line, and John Randall says, and I hear it because at the time we didn't do shotgun. So I'm going to put my hands under Frank. And John Randall looks up and says, "Hey, how's Aubrey and Alexa doing?" We run the play. Frank comes back to huddle. He's like, "Dude," and he threw a lot of F-bombs out. Frank's from Hoboken. He's like, "Dude."
Frank was awesome.
I know my effing family. I'm like, I didn't even say nothing at the time because I had to call a play. So we go up again. The next play, he's like, "How's Alita doing?" And Frank was beside himself. He couldn't believe. He knows all about my family. I said, "Frank, he's getting in your head, and he's doing a great job."
Wow.
Wow.
But it was always a chess match with the real smart, the really good players like Urlacher or John Randall or Warren Sapp.
Yeah.
They took it to another level. Not just great athletic ability, but the mental aspect of it, which is probably my last 10 years. I try to play more mind games with the opponent than in the previous 10.
Wow. So, Anthony, I feel like you got something on that because, I mean, think about that. Like, the devil does the same thing. It's like he knows what's important to you. He comes in to try to steal, kill, and destroy. Obviously, the Bible says that God's not the author of confusion, and the devil does that stuff. So watching our words and our thoughts and how we operate is so important.
Yeah, well, what was most interesting about some of the stories you were sharing, Brett, is the fact that you guys weren't really concerned about what the defense was doing. The offense had a plan, and what mattered was as long as you were in sync with your center and the rest of the team was in sync with the snap, then that's what you guys went with. And so when you're talking about society right now and the culture, and you mentioned, some of the things that you were ready for when you spoke at the campaign rally with President Trump, that's the mentality that we have when we come against, any type of situation or circumstance that, would be not welcoming, is to understand, hey, I've got a game plan going in already. God's told me this, or I've decided this already. It doesn't matter what the opposition or anybody on the outside is going to say. So I honestly want to commend you because I know we all know there's been things that you've had to walk through personally, and for you to just continue to stand strong and not be one of those people giving in to the opposition and not just running your mouth or anything, but you said, hey, I'm going to let my actions do the talking. And so that's the thing that stood out to me the most about, just your playing career and just who you are as a person.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Very nice of you.
Yeah. Pastor Hank, I know you could say the same thing in the face of the things you spoke out with the Word of God about President Trump, and you didn't change your stance. And Brett, you didn't change your stance either. And so, Pastor Hank, talk about that even. I think it's a powerful thing, and watching our words, sticking with the story.
Yeah, let me go back to, let me have a little fun here. So, Brett, when I played in the NFL, the Neighborhood Football League, and they put me in at quarterback, you had Green 18, mine was Green Acres. and then when you were saying the Bears suck, I was saying Green Acres, I really suck, because I was not good at it. And then the defense, they would lift their hands up like this, in a sign of, give it up, dude. And they were my own teammates. So anyway, so I switched from quarterback and I started playing receiver. But I do think this, Brett, I think when the defense, now I'm going to answer your question. I think it was fantastic. Okay, so here's the point. So, I think a lot of times the reason why the defense put their hands up, Brett, is the way you would thread that ball between 2, 3, 4 defenders, man. I think they were like, I quit. There's nothing I can do, man. And I want to say this last thing on that. I've watched several with Matthew growing up. We would watch some of the highlight reels that the different news channels, things would put out of your conversations with some of the opposite teams, how you would walk up and get in their face face and say things. You remember that, man?
Well, Amon Green is from Omaha, and he told me a story, and he's like, I got to say that real quick.
And then I'm going to make a powerful
I talked to Amon Green because, he is from Omaha.
Yeah.
And we were talking. He goes, funny story about Brett. He goes, we're getting in the huddle. And it's like start of the game, and he goes, I think we were playing Tampa Bay, and Warren Sapp's like crossing the line of scrimmage, just yapping. And Brett basically tells the rest of us in the huddle, hey, I'll be right back. And he goes, we're all like, Brett, what are you doing? What are you doing? And you walk over there, and you just get in Sapp's face like, you're not doing this today. and he goes, we all just was like, hey, Brett's done it. We got nothing else to do. We were all trying to tell him, don't get over there. And you went and just absolutely yapped it up with Sapp. I don't know if you remember that. It was like, Mon said it was like start of the game or something. And Sapp was, trying to let y'all have it right from the start. I'm here all day, all of that.
I'd like to hear your comment. Tell us about that. And then I'll make my powerful, 20-second point. But go ahead. I'd like to hear about that.
What I'll say about that is, I did get Warren's face. The lesson I learned is don't do it at the start of the game, because I instigated. He was a madman after that. And Frank, who was also my roommate in center, was like, dude, you don't need to poke the bear. It's bad enough as it is. I can't block him on a good day. And now you're over here trash talking with him. And that just provokes him. So I learned to stay as quiet as I could, as long as I could. But one thing about Warren was a hell of a player, but he was an even better trash talker. So you couldn't talk him down. He backed it up, and all he needed. There's some guys you could get one up on them and they'd shut up. Not Warren. Like we'd be up, say 21-7. I remember one time we were playing in Green Bay and it was 21-7, and we was like 3rd and 10 or 15. I hit Bill Schrader on the sideline for a touchdown, but I got drilled by Warren right when I was letting it go, and I never saw it. I just heard the crowd. And I heard him cheer, and I said, he was on top of him. And he's like, all day, for. And I said, it was a touchdown. We're up 28-7. He goes, I don't give a damn. I'm going to be kicking your butt all day. And that was Warren. He didn't care what the scoreboard said. If we were up by 40 or down by 40, he was still trash talking and bringing the heat.
Yeah, but Brett, wait a minute. I saw a video, and this is what you got to sometimes do to the enemy. And this is what I had to do with the fake news. I had to do it with a liberal agenda that was coming really strong for our country and our generation. Yeah. I also saw one video where I think it was Sapp, where he tackled you and you looked at him and you got up and you said, "Is that the best you got?" Do you remember that one, Matt?
Yeah, I think you played Minnesota and you said, I thought you hit harder than that.
Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah. I'm like, that's my kind of guy, man. Yeah. But, I've had to listen, to answer your question, and maybe, Brett could speak into this, whether it's the game of football or the game of life, you got to not let the enemy get in your head. You just can't. And that's really what was happening over the last 5 years of constant narratives that were coming at the people of this great country. And I just kept saying, don't let this stuff get in your head, because if you do, you'll start believing it. And that's really what and it'll change the game. And I knew that it would change the outcome of our country and a generation for our kids. And so I had to stay with the story. I had to stay with the game plan. That's what God said to me, because, Brett, the Lord spoke to me back on 9/11 with our church congregation that he was going to raise up a president out of New York who would be born and raised there, that would bring our country back on course. And so, I knew through time the Lord revealed that it would be President Trump. And people didn't believe it when the Lord was saying it, even before he even came into power in 2016, and I had to shut off all of that stuff. And then there was times where I had to be purposeful and get in the head of the fake news and let them know that, you know what, I'm going to speak truth, I'm going to stand for truth, and I've got some teammates called a nation of patriots and God-fearing people that were not going to let this happen. We were not going to lose the game. And it's why God had you go to Wisconsin, to deal with the trash of our country. And you helped shift Wisconsin. You helped shift the nation. And I think it's beautiful. So I want you to say something I'd like to know from Brett. Brett, you know, in times when you do face people coming and saying things that aren't true, they're lying about you at some level. I mean, we all on this panel, we all have somebody in our lives that have come at us to really try to make it hurt. What advice would you give, or maybe what have you learned? I've learned something. Don't answer your critics is what I learned. You don't
absolutely.
How
That's
do you
what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Were you really? You were going to say that?
You know, I want to comment back, or I wanted to comment back and fight fire with fire. But you're wasting your time.
Yeah, you are.
You stand firm in what you believe in, and when given the opportunity, you can voice your opinion, but don't get into the little petty arguments, whether it be social media or some debate, because you're not going to win that. There's the crazies are crazy. You're not going to change their mind. You just stand firm in what you believe in. And when given the opportunity to say your side, do it, but not in the social media argument.
Yeah.
You know, so
in that discussion, you know, a lot of times people, they want to voice their opinion, especially when you feel like you've been betrayed in life. You know, even Officer Herrick, I think about what you guys had to deal with the whole country, you know, doing this whole talk about defund the police and all that stuff, you know, and how you had to show up every single day, putting your life on the line, Officer Herrick, for, you know, this country.
And we thank you.
And we thank you. So, Officer Herrick, real quick, do you have a comment on that before I ask this question to Brett? You know, what was that even like, you know, for, you know, you having to take a stand for this nation and what you believe in and keeping our streets safe in the face of, man, I want to make a comment so bad because it's atrocious that people even think that kind of stuff.
It's hard to be quiet. My first oath was in 19, went to the Army, you know, so I'm a veteran and a cop. But I got to tell Brett this first. From my son, who adores you, he wanted me to say, Mr. Brett, winner, winner, chicken dinner. From Jackson to you, just so you know.
Show your shirt, bro.
Yeah.
Show your shirt.
Here's
You got to
the
show
shirt
your
that we
shirt.
made for the draft. All right, I got to stand up for it. So it says,
Herrick made that, right?
Brett Favre,
that's
cool.
friggin' awesome.
Now, people can bag on jean shorts, but tell you what, Brett Favre's not wearing a dress, I'll tell you that much right now. So, you wear those jean shorts, brother, okay?
Hey, wait a minute. I'm not either. I mean, where's my shout out?
And,
okay, you know?
Common sense is not common anymore. It doesn't exist. You got guys who want to be girls want to be guys, people want to be pets and cats and stuff. But Pastor Matt, to speak to your point,
Fair.
it's hard to be quiet. You know, it's hard to be a Christian, but I'm glad that I am. Being like, you can't answer your haters either, by the way. The world's full of them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I don't care about those people. The one who made me, God made me. I know what God said about me.
That's good.
God made me. God forged me. God died for me. That's my opinion right there. That's what matters to me.
Yeah.
Let the haters hate. I don't care about the haters. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so Brett, one thing that comes to mind is, you know, like I said, in this country or just in the world, people have a hard time dealing with things like the word betrayal. And when you feel betrayed or mistreated, and it's like, man, I didn't get to share my heart. I didn't get to have a say. You know, what comes to mind is maybe the separation that happened with the Packers. And then I know you wanted to go get your revenge and come out that tunnel in Lambeau, and you know, you beat them your first year twice, and then obviously, you know, the next year they won the Super Bowl. But what was that like running out that tunnel, you know, and you're like, man, I'm going to a place I've been 16 years of my career. I want revenge. And actually, a lot of people don't know this. I think it's the most savage thing I've ever seen in your career. You know, we can talk about the trash talk. We can talk how you'd sprint 40 yards down the field and decleat Patrick Willis, all that stuff. But on that first drive, and I remember this because I was a Packer fan, but I was a fan of yours as well. And obviously I wanted Green Bay to win the game, but you ran out that field for the opening series. And I think Green Bay had the ball first. So you guys forced a punt, and then you guys came on the field. they showed as you were running out to Lambeau booing you, you looked at the Fox camera and you winked at the camera. Look at this. Like, I mean, just the most savage thing I've ever seen. Like, oh, it's all good. Like, I got this. Just watch what I'm about to do, you know? And you went out there and lit up Green Bay and got your revenge. And you didn't even have to say a word. Oh, Green Bay mistreated me, all of that. You know, talk about that, because that had to be hard. I mean, you wanted to come back. They didn't even call you and tell you, hey, we're drafting Aaron Rodgers. We're replacing you. You know, it just, the way it was handled was not good.
Yeah. First of all, I didn't know I did that wink.
Yeah.
But how ballsy is that?
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's awesome.
What the heck was I thinking?
Matthew, I was watching the game, and Matthew even said it when it happened live. He goes, Dad, he winked. I said, he did not. And then when we went back and saw it, we're like, Dad,
I said, we're in trouble today. I said, it's going to be one of those Favre
he said
games.
It. He goes, Dad, he goes, we're done. He goes, that wink, we're done.
And he shredded us. We looked
we always
stupid.
celebrated you, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny? The Packer game in Green Bay was about 2 weeks after the one in Minnesota.
Yes.
So that atmosphere in Minnesota when the Packers came in was like a Super Bowl. It was electric, and I couldn't have played any better. So I thought, okay, I got that out of the way. Going to Green Bay will be a lot easier, a lot smoother. You know, I knew that it would. I really didn't know how I would be received. I thought it'd be a mixed bag, and I think to a certain degree it was mixed. But I thought the nervousness was over because I'd played them already and we won. Got that out of the way. Mm-hmm. But when I started coming out of the visitors' tunnel, it's real. You know, for years I was out of the big tunnel, and I don't know if I ever really stopped and said, I wonder what it's like to be a visitor here. I knew it was a hostile environment. And you know, Lambeau Field, everyone knows can relate to Lambeau, whether you've been there or not. They know what it is, what it's, you know, the history, the great players that's played there, the games, goes without saying. Well, when I came out of that tunnel, I was so nervous, twice, maybe 10 times more nervous than the first game. And I was like, I wasn't expecting that. And so when finally I got out of the tunnel and the people could see me, it was the loudest, and I take this as a compliment. It was the loudest boos I've ever heard in that place ever. And did I ever think that the loudest boos I ever heard there would be because of me?
Yeah.
No. So the pressure was on even greater than the first game to perform at I thought, okay, I already did my piece in Minnesota. I don't need to prove myself anymore, although I wanted to. But then when I walked out of that tunnel, I got those boos. I was like,
so we have the clip of how loud it is. So if they have the clip of how loud those boos were, like, I want to play that and then talk about. Listen. Yeah, it was. Wow. So Brett, in that moment, I mean, obviously you felt some sort of, betrayal. Obviously, like, man, I want to get back at this team. I'm gonna play them twice now. And you came out and you lit Green Bay up, but then obviously that kind of shifted things, and you really became honored. I mean, later on, they showed up for a ceremony, I think in June or July. It wasn't even a game day, and the stadium was completely full. And, I mean, people were in the stands cheering you on. And then I was there Thanksgiving night that year when they unveiled your name on the walls. My brother and I sat in that game.
It was the rainstorm, wasn't it?
Yeah, Thanksgiving night.
I was watching it.
Sleep. Bart Starr's last time at Lambeau, he came out and hugged you.
Yeah, what a great night that was.
What was that like? Just from the sequence of betrayal to then God brought it all back full circle, and then you got honored and reacclimated with the Packers.
Absolutely. Well, the first time I was back after I played there as the opponent, was for the Hall of Fame induction, which you just mentioned. 70-something thousand people.
Unreal.
In the stands, not for a game, to hear me talk for 10, 15 minutes. And I'll be honest with you, I was very nervous prior to walking out because I didn't know how I would be received the last time I was there. Think about it. I was booed worse than anybody had ever been booed before. So that was fresh in my mind. But it was an overwhelming reception, and it brought me to tears. You know, I mean, it was a reconnection with my family, more or less.
Wow.
I mean, I'm getting choked up, Brett. Just, you know, I remember watching it from the house, and Brenda, my wife, Brenda, and I mean, we were in tears. I mean, it was a beautiful picture of what happens when ultimately you keep your heart right, which you did. And it's today why, like I said at the beginning of this show, where number 4 is the most, I got to watch the right English, the most worn. In other words, number 4 still today. I go to a lot of games with Matt. I love it. Is the number 4 is the most worn number that you see. People really love you. They celebrate you. And Brett, but it's also a testimony of the heart that God was trying to get after, and the testimony of who you are today, but what you've become. And I think people know that, and they you know, honor is so powerful, guys. It's the first thing God said in His commandment is that we're to honor the Lord with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And your heart never really left Green Bay, and that honor is why God gave you that opportunity. But I want to know this. You know, you mentioned about how nervous you were. Did you have a prepared statement? I mean, or is it something that you just said, you know, I'm going to go out, I'm going to have a few things I'm going to say, and then I'm just going to share from my heart? Because I remember how moved I was with what you shared, you know. So,
you know, Hank, great question. When I walked out in front of 70,000, I did not have a prepared speech.
Wow.
And I think mainly because the Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton, they start prepping you 6 months in advance. So they tell you, you know, you're going to go third. You got 20 minutes to talk. You know, they kind of give you a good outline, a guideline of what will take place. And they kind of tell you the do's and don'ts of what to talk about. The one in Green Bay was just kind of a wing. Now, it was just a special. I mean, how can you not be just blown away when 70-something thousand people come to watch you give a farewell speech? And I kind of like I played all those years, I just shot from the hip and spoke from the heart. And
you played with the heart. That. You played with the heart too, Brett. And that's why, you know, today there's such a love for the legacy that you left there. It's what I always told Matt growing up. I said, Matt, it's one thing to be like Brett Favre in your playing, because, I mean, he would literally make me watch video after video and go out in the backyard and try to teach him how to do that. And I finally said, Matt, I think you got it. Just watch him. But I would say to Matt, I said, there's one thing that Brett has that is very unique in a human being. And I remember saying this to you growing up. I said, Matt, he has a heart that no matter what he does, he's going to do it with all his heart. And I said, and with that, he has a no-nonsense, I'm not going to quit, but I'm going to do my best at whatever's handed to me. And everybody that comes alongside, I'm going to do my best to make them, you know, have their best also. And I said, Matthew, that's what's going to make you great in life, is never quit. Don't let people force you to become something that you're not. Don't let them get in your head. This is a great program for this, because this is what I told you growing up this was your hero. And I said, you know, keep your heart right, Matt. And Brett, you did. And it's why God's honoring you like He is, and He's going to continue. And so I think this is beautiful. But man, golly, that was a very emotional time. I can imagine.
It was.
I mean, even that night on Thanksgiving, and I know, you know, it was like nothing I've never heard the stadium get as loud as it did. I've been to a lot of games. I was at the, Des Bryant game when he dropped the ball, all that stuff. Like, I've been at so many different legendary Lambeau moments, and the loudest I've ever heard that stadium was when Bart Starr came out to hug you, and then Rodgers came out and basically said to you, put her in the old vice, and all three of you were on the field at the same time. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, and your family with you too, Brett, was beautiful too. That was a moment where you all stood together, and all the adversity of life is nothing better than to have that component of a great family.
Oh yeah, I remember those flags too, the number 4 flags. I still have that they handed out to the crowd. Yeah.
So Brett, what's your comment? I'd love to hear from him again. I mean, this is a really great moment and a great lesson in life.
Well, the year before the what we're seeing here with Bart was actually, we were going to do it the year before, but Bart's health was not
I remember
up to it. So I actually instigated having Bart show up. I knew, look, his days were numbered. He was revered and still is like nobody else for obvious reasons. I mean, the nicest guy you could ever meet. Had tremendous success as a player there. And I wanted to share that night because I knew if we could ever get him up there, it was going to be the last time.
Wow.
So when he couldn't make it, we postponed it, which I don't think the public knew. We postponed it to the following year. And 3 weeks before that, show of love, he went to Mexico and got a stem cell injection. And they said that had he not done that, he wouldn't have been able to make it. He was a little out of it. Like you've seen the picture. The three of us have taken the portrait. That was prior to the game.
Wow.
It was like herding cats trying to get Bart to sit.
Wow.
And I mean, he was still in a bad way, but he was able to at least get this picture snapped, go out on the field, and he was like a kid that was so giddy on the field. He just was. I was like, Bart, this is for you.
That is touching, man.
Wow. It gives me goosebumps.
Me too.
Still to this day.
Wow.
Because, I would hope that someone would do that for me in my later years.
Wow.
So that was, to me, was more about sharing with Bart than, even though it was to honor my 16 years there and retire my jersey. It was, to me, it was more, this is Bart Starr's last, this is swan song right here.
Wow.
Wow. That's touching.
It just, that night, I remember sitting in there. The weather was terrible. It was sleeting.
Yeah, it was Green Bay weather.
It was Green Bay weather, and I love it. I love that. I love cold, snowy games up there. It's my favorite. But
don't you think Thanksgiving is interesting too?
It was.
I look at things sometimes in life. Maybe I'm a little weird, but I always look at things from God's perspective. I try to live my life that way. Is what does God think? Why is this happening like this? And the fact that it was Thanksgiving is because I think, again, the principle of honor that was in your heart, the principle of honor in the fans' hearts, your family's heart, your honor to Brett or to Bart Starr there. All of it was about honor and Thanksgiving. And I think ultimately God was smiling down, going, I want to bring a sense of honor and thanks. Brett, where you came in there with an incredible honor, and what honor does is it brings a sense of restoration, and that's really why we talked about even President Trump and this, why we have our country back is ultimately the people that honored God and honored one another, honored what is sacred, important. That, wow, we're sitting back giving thanks, and we're sitting here going, look at what is happening now to our country. So I don't know if that's making sense, but I just think the fact that it was on 100%. Thanksgiving and honor was such a part. Now you look back at everything and see how it's played out.
Absolutely. I'm taken back too with some of this, and you recently did a podcast with Pastor Brian Hall, and you mentioned something about the two thieves on the cross. And can you share that story, like your revelation of that on this show? It was unbelievable. Wow. And you got choked up the last time talking about it. I don't, hopefully, you're able to, hey, whatever happens. But it was beautiful. And I think people need to realize that, because that goes with honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's Luke 33. I can't remember the exact verse, but it gives hope to all of us, because this guy is a criminal, maybe a murderer, a bad guy. And right before he's put to death, he asked God, or Jesus, remember me when you get to heaven. And of course, Jesus says, I will remember you.
Yes.
What's so compelling is we're all sinners, some worse than others, but we're all sinners. There was only one guy that wasn't. He was crucified. Mm-hmm. So there's hope for each and every one of us, down to the last second, which, he was in the fourth quarter, maybe even overtime, and he asked for forgiveness.
Wow.
And Jesus gave it to him.
Yeah.
And so that's a lesson for all of us. We're never going to be perfect. No matter how hard we try, we're going to fall. And we're going to fall again, and we're going to fall again. No matter how hard we try to be right, you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. And that's the game of life. But there is hope for all of us.
Yeah.
And it really, it's simple. You don't need to make it complicated. Believe in Jesus Christ. I choose to believe, and I tell people this all the time. Like the fair weather or the non-believers. I'm like, maybe you're right. Maybe there is nothing after. But just, what if you're wrong? Mm-hmm. Which I believe, and I'm going to believe. But for those non-believers, if they're wrong, imagine where they're going to. And it's just simple. Choose to believe. With God, there's a lot more good things can happen than without. Mm-hmm. And there's hope.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Hope for us all.
Wow.
Powerful.
Anthony, you got any comment on that?
The only question I had for you, and maybe you could share this with the viewers, Brett, just with all the, a lot of the adversity you dealt with as a football player, and just, your time with the Packers, and then that transition to Minnesota. Obviously there's some times probably you had to forgive people when you didn't want to, even in your own personal life. What was your process for that? Because I think a lot of people, maybe they're holding on to things because they don't know how to forgive. Yeah. They don't know how to move forward. So what's your process for that?
I think more than anything, time. It's like when my father passed away, the shock and awe of the initial news. Over time, it settled in. You go through a rough patch, but then over time, it heals. And so, someone does you wrong, your initial reaction is fight, either with words or with your hands or with, a gun or a knife, whatever. But over time, especially as you get older, and I will say wiser, the fighting is not the best thing. I'm not going to say there's not times where you shouldn't fight, but fight a different way. And over time, it's like God works on your heart, massages your heart, works on your brain, and says, I know you don't want to do this, but you're gonna be so much freer after you do this, and that's always the case.
Yeah.
Even though, no matter if you have 5 different situations where you need to forgive someone, and they all work out fine, the 6th one doesn't quite work out the way you want, and but it will forgive, move on. And it's so much more refreshing. You know, I had such ill will versus the Packers. And quite frankly, when I went to Minnesota, I only cared about 2 games. Green Bay and Minnesota, and Green Bay at Lambeau. And the hard thing for me was I had to muster up the energy to play 14 more games.
Wow.
Because I was putting all my eggs in one basket.
Wow.
And that was wrong. And, you know, after I won the first game, what I will say about easing the tension, there was a part of me that wanted to do somersaults and cartwheels and right in front of the bench. But I knew that wasn't going to happen. And I knew that served no purpose. And it was like I forgave them at that moment. And the peace was just immeasurable after that.
Wow.
No matter what happened. Now, fortunately, we played them again and we beat them. And then, like you said, Matt, the next year they won the Super Bowl, so they got the last laugh.
Yeah.
But after that win, that was like I forgave them. And the weight on my shoulders was lifted off tremendously.
Wow.
Yeah. Willie, do you have a question for Brett here in this time?
I do. So I just want to make sure that I always give honor. So I want to thank Pastor Matt and Pastor Anthony for having me on the show today. It's a blessing to be here. Brett, it's an honor to meet you, sir. I just wanted to ask this. You know, I grew up in St. Louis. I was a Rams guy. But my first NFL game was October 10th, 1993. You guys were playing the Broncos. That's the first time I saw Reggie White and all of you guys, and that's when I decided I wanted to be a defensive end. But the question I have for you is my father, I used to train all the time with my dad, and he would always bring you up. He would be like, you have to have a special edge, a level of tenacity where, like, no matter what happens, we're going to get it done. And I've watched a lot of your games, and I was talking to Pastor Matt about this, but, like, you got hit a lot. Like, you got hit a lot. And I'm serious, but you got hit a lot. And I watched you, you know, when people talk about quarterbacks running the ball today, you were doing this before most people were even talking about quarterbacks taking the ball and running down the field. And so my question for you, sir, is where did you get that, I guess we'll call it that animal? You know, we would call it that dog on the field. But where did that come from? And what would you say to this generation of young men about how to pursue not only things on the field, but off the field as well, with that same swagger that you played with?
Yeah, so it came from my dad. And I tell this story so many times. My dad was short on attaboys and long on.
Yeah.
You know, my dad he would say a few choice words that I'm going to choose not to use here. You can imagine. He's like, he was my high school coach. He was the head football coach at a high school for 35 years. And he said, if you ever lay on the field, me and your mama won't ever come out there and get you.
Wow.
Don't expect that. So you can lay all night. You can be there the next day for all I care. But no one's coming to get you. And, you know, he was, when I say tough, that's an understatement.
Yes,
and there was just no room for, I'll use the term sissy.
Yeah.
You know, there was no room for that. And when my older brother played for my dad, my younger brother, we all three played quarterback. And my older brother, actually, he threw it with my older brother. I think my older brother threw for like 1,700 yards. And then we ran the wishbone. And I would say, Dad, we need to throw the ball. And he would say, you need to let me call the plays, and you shut up and run what I call. But in practice, I did everything that everyone else did. I played both ways. No, we only had 30-something players.
Wow.
But it was all about toughness and discipline. My dad was very little on strategy, X's and O's. He was more, if we're tough and we're in shape, we got a chance.
That's good.
And that means my son, and quarterback too, I'm not going to do anything to showcase him that's going to jeopardize the team, including throwing the ball. And if he were here today, he would say, worked out pretty damn good, didn't it? That'd be hard to argue. But that's where the toughness came from.
Yes, sir.
And Willie, give me the second part of that.
Oh, what? Yeah. Well, thank you. What would you say to the younger, this generation now?
Oh,
this generation now.
Well, it's a different game. First of all, the game of life is different as well. The simplicity, the common sense is not what we remember it as. And Hank and I are a little bit older than you guys, but it was a much simpler and I would say an easy upbringing for the youth back then. You didn't have social media. I remember the big deal was when you got Nintendo or Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
That was a big deal. And you look at the graphics now that you go, what were we thinking?
No, Brett, I'm older than all of you. It was the stick people.
Media.
It was the stick people is what I grew up playing.
Yeah.
All right, you remember that? Okay.
Home.
Yeah.
Ball.
Dun, 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 dun. I'm going to be 60 in a few months, but it was dun, 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 dun. Anyway, never mind, guys. Brett, make a great point here. Go ahead.
Well, I just think this generation faces a lot more challenges than we faced. Mm-hmm. And, you got to go back to where it all starts and what's most important, and that's your faith.
Amen.
Because too many people in this younger generation judge their success on the likes or dislikes.
Yep.
Wow.
And the only like that you should worry about is Jesus Christ.
Amen.
That's it.
That's good.
And if he likes you, you're doing good. If your friend doesn't like you for what you wore to school, or you don't dance right, or you can't sing, or whatever.
Yeah.
So what? But this younger generation faces those challenges, and too many of them fall because of that, and it's sad. So place it in God's hands, and that's where it starts. That's where it finishes.
Yeah.
Amen.
And
Thank
just
you. That's
watching
great.
our words, I think that's so important. Watching what we say, what we think about is so important. I want to say this too. Since the last time you were on the show, you were on Capitol Hill and you were talking about all that stuff that was going on, which we've been praying for you about, and then you had announced to the world things that were going on with your health and the Parkinson's announcement. How are you feeling? And obviously, we've been praying for you and really keeping you in prayer and just speaking healing over your body. And so how have you been feeling, over time here? And
well, like I said, to so many folks over the last year and a half, it's been about that. It's been about a year since I revealed to the nation. And the outpouring and the support has been tremendous. I don't worry about the haters, but I'm early in the disease. There's not a lot that they can. You take the medicine that everyone else takes, and you hope for a cure or something to slow the progression to come, along the way. I'm sure Michael J. Fox, who was diagnosed, by the way, at 28 in 1991, I believe it was. And here he is in his 60s. I have to believe that when he was diagnosed at 28, he thought, well, there'll be a cure in the next 5 to 10 years. I'll be fine. And now he's still working. He's someone like Michael J. Fox has raised over, I think, $2 billion for Parkinson's research. And they are close. They're close. There's a couple clinical trial drugs that have shown great promise. And I'm hoping to get in on one of them here in the next few weeks, that if it works the way I'm hearing, I wouldn't have to take any Parkinson's medicine. You do an IV once every 6 months.
wow.
And pretty much you're symptom free for 6 months, and then you do it again. So that would be a godsend.
Wow.
Amen.
And
But all in all, I can't complain. Life is good.
wow.
Anthony, you're going to say something? Oh, and of course, we have our son John, who he's got this career that he's trying to, go towards the UFC. I don't know if you heard, he was supposed to be on the Contender Series with Dana White, and I think President Trump might have been there. But just a week before, was it a week before?
It was like about 3 weeks before his fight. He had a rib injury.
He had a rib injury and
training.
He couldn't fight, and so the UFC reached back out to him and said, John, we've been tracking your journey, and the reason why this is important, he was diagnosed at the age of 10 as a type 1 diabetic, and I've been hearing there's some breakthroughs that are coming, in the area of type 1 diabetes as well. And so, people often ask me, well, how do you navigate that? This is your son. He's taken, 40,000 shots or something, maybe 50,000 since he's 10 years of age. And I always say it this way, if you mentioned Luke, or the book of Luke regarding the thief. And I always tell people, if people understand, why did God give a whole book to Luke? He was a physician. Mm-hmm. He traveled with the apostles. But Luke also documented a lot of the miracles of Jesus. So he documented, as a medical doctor, a lot of the supernatural encounters of our Lord. Because God is trying to say something very powerful. If we do have to take medicine, or we have a certain diagnosis, I always say it's just like taking food. You are to pray over it and say, Lord, this works with my body and not against it, for a healing and for a cure. But then at the same time, we should keep pressing for, if one woman in Mark 5 who had an issue of blood for 12 years, she spent a lot of money at the hands of the doctor, and at the end of the day, she had no medical options. There was no medical cure. But she said, you know what? I got to reach for something else. I've got to reach for ultimately who's the healer, whether he's going to bless this type 1 diabetic research or Parkinson's disease. I got to reach for him. And she did. And 12 years of frustration, of a hemorrhaging, of an issue, immediately it shifted in her whole body, her whole life. And so, that's what I want to encourage not only you, Brett, but I know of John, my son, if you're listening, or maybe our viewers today, is, if you're taking medicine, God has blessed the medical industry. Pray as you take that into your body. God, let this work with my body and not against it. In fact, I want to pray for people right now.
Sure.
And then also, God, may you also supernaturally heal those people. Father, I come to you in the name of Yeshua, the name that is above every other name, any named disease, any named cure. You are God, and there is none else. And so as we come to your throne today, we thank you for grace and mercy, God, unmerited favor and help in the time of need. And we pray now for everyone who is listening and those that will watch, especially those, Lord, that are facing something in their life. Maybe it's a medical condition where they're saying there's no cure. Or maybe there are those that are watching today and they are in a situation where they're like, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know which direction to go. God, I am asking for divine intervention. And we are praying for your mercy to come, especially over those, Lord, who are taking medicine or need to take medicine, or maybe they've been told that there is no cure. God, I pray that if they receive medicine into their body, that you would sanctify it, set it apart, and bless it, that it would work with their body and not against it. And there would be an acceleration of healing that will come to those, Lord, who are crying out to you. But ultimately, Lord God, we look to you. There is no one that can match the greatness of the honor of who you are, God. There is no one that can match the greatness of your power, your mercy, your love, your kindness. Oh, and how about this, God, your forgiveness. So I do pray, Father, bring forth a healing touch upon anyone right now on the sound of my voice that needs a touch that only comes from the power of the saving right hand of you, our Lord and our Savior. And God, touch their body now, that disease has to bow. Lord, depression, loneliness, whatever it is, has to bow. And lastly, I do pray for the medical community. Lord, it's time now for breakthroughs. Yes. You said in your word, oh God of mercy, that you cause it to rain. And when it does, it rains on those that are just, but also the unjust. Lord, I say, it doesn't matter if that farmer's a heathen or a righteous farmer. You water their crops. I ask you to do this in the medical community now for the sake of people who have suffered at the hands of disease. Lord, I ask you to accelerate not only your healing power, that's why Dr. Luke is in the Bible, but I pray that you would accelerate, God, medical cures and discoveries, and that they'll not be held back by bureaucracy. And those that, Lord, they're in it for the money. Let it be for the sake of the suffering that they receive an answer today. And lastly, I want to stretch my hand towards you, Brett. Yes. God, you are so pleased with this man. And you have taken him through a journey now that men must hear. An autobiography, even some a movie or something about his life. I see that you're wanting to unfold and unveil. I think it's two. I think there's a movie and I think there's a book that is going to give hope to people and how to navigate the game of life. And I pray that you would bless this man and that you would keep him and make your face shine down upon him and his family. Yes, I ask you, Lord, to continually give him a voice. Father, extend his lifespan to many, many long years, that, Lord, he will always stand and be a voice for you and for this country, but, Lord, for the suffering, that he will be a voice of hope. Now, God, I ask you to continually silence the enemy concerning him. Continue to exonerate him, vindicate him, celebrate him, and bless him. And even his wife, God, who has stood, that woman knows you. Now I'm asking you to answer the secret prayers that she prays, not only over her family, but, Lord, just the things that are on her heart now, in Jesus' name.
Yes.
Amen. And one other thing, Lord, Brett needs to, invite me down for dinner or come have dinner with me. And Lord, when I forget my wallet, when we go out to eat, just let him bring his so that we don't have to do dishes in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Sorry. And by the way, you should have asked me to pray because the show probably is supposed to be over, right? I'm a long-winded prayer guy. I'm sorry. I get caught up in my.
No, that was good. Hank. Thank you very much.
I didn't mean to overpray. I didn't, and it's not my show. But anyway, I love you guys.
Any closing comments, real quick, Anthony, or the panel over there? Herrick, you got anything, Officer Herrick?
Last thing, yeah. Brett, to you and your wife, I love you guys, man. As a kid, I couldn't stand you, just so you know.
Oh, I already know. You told me.
Yeah. Because the Niners, then the Patriots, then the Jets. But now I like you, so you're good to go. But to your wife, who I love and adore, you guys stay strong. We're praying for you guys always. We love you deeply, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it, Matt.
Yeah. Willie, anything from you, man?
Yeah, I know. I know Pastor and Pastor Matt and Pastor Anthony mentioned it, but it would be awesome. Just, I know your schedule is probably wild, but if you could come to OTH even just one day, it would be phenomenal.
And we don't believe in putting people on the spot, Brett. But boy, so we're not going to put you on the spot. So Brett, just OTH is September 11th through the 14th. Since we're not putting you on the spot, and it opens up on September 11th, the patriotic day in our country with Flashpoint. But we're not putting you on the spot, Brett. But
I've been taught how to be bold around here, so here we go.
We'll take good care of you.
You just got fired.
So we're not putting you on the
and
spot.
You haven't had Nebraska beef. You haven't had real beef.
That's true.
No. They got skinny cows down in Mississippi.
I have not.
Do you know the steak that we ate at that place was imported by Nebraska?
Sure. Maybe.
Hey, you know what? We don't want to put you on the spot, but if you need information about the conference to pray about it with you and your wife, even if it's for one night, Brett, we'll make it happen. We'd just love to see you and love on you, and we'll let you come out and say hi to the people.
Matthew, you send me the dates, and I'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Are you serious, man? You're going to make me pass out, and then these guys... You are not allowed to give me a resuscitation. I don't want no man's lips on it.
No, we're going to Scotland.
Deal.
I'm excited about it. We're going to Scotland like 12 or 14 days starting around September 1st.
Wow.
Wow.
I've never been.
That's going to be beautiful.
Wow.
I hope so. I hope they got air conditioning. Everywhere I've been, like in Europe, they don't believe in air conditioning. Well, we were in Switzerland last year, and it really didn't matter because we were in Switzerland.
Right.
But we were in Rome in May, and it was hot as a firecracker, man. And they don't have air conditioning, and I was miserable.
Hey, we were talking because I was talking about, a couple of my guys up in Green Bay, and they were on the phone with you that time, and you were talking about how you miss sometimes that cold up there in Green Bay, living out in Arizona, or not Arizona, living out in Mississippi, but it feels like Arizona heat sometimes in Mississippi because of that humidity.
Right now, I would do anything to be in December Green Bay weather. I mean, it's smothering.
Mowing the lawn out where you're at, man.
Hey, is that a clean shirt, Brett? I got to know before we leave.
It is. And someone asked me if it's true, and I said, absolutely, it's true.
Well, I'm ready for fall. I want cooler weather so bad.
It's coming.
Yeah.
I saw there's a little mini cold front that's coming. It's actually going to get down here. Y'all obviously will get it first, but the lows will get down in the 50s.
In Mississippi?
I haven't seen 50s since January of last year.
Wow.
So when's your birthday? When's your birthday, Brett?
October 10th.
All right, maybe we should send him a parka or something. I'd love to see Brett Favre. No, Brett, seriously. I mean, you still look, sorry about that with the microphone. You still look handsome, but it would be great to see Brett Favre with like a parka. Like this, Brett.
I don't know if it'd get used much down here, but.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
We'll think about it.
Yeah. Well, Brett, thanks for being on today. We love you, Deanna.
We love you.
Send our love to her as well. And
will do.
We really appreciate it. And just, we got to definitely powwow sometime and throw some food down. And
yeah.
I missed that dessert out there that we had too. Oh, man. Just
we all crank the old plane up and make a trip down again.
What's that?
Crank the plane up and come on down.
Yeah,
we will.
I'll treat.
Listen, if I have to send a horse for you to get you up here for OTH, it'll be awesome.
Well, we thought Southern Miss was coming for the CWS, but then they choked. So
I'm hoping it's before we all pass away, but we're going to get there at some point.
Yeah. All right. In the meantime, Brett, next time I see you, I'm going to move from a 1-pack ab to probably 2. All
right. Well, thank you, audience, for tuning in today. If this show had blessed you, we just encourage you, share it with somebody, send it to somebody, like, subscribe to our podcast, follow us on Instagram at Primetime Game Changers, and even follow Brett at Brett Favre on Instagram, and keep up with what God is doing in his life. But we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you at OTH in a few weeks, and we're excited for our new book that's coming out as well. So see you soon, and remember, change the game in your city wherever you're at. Bye-bye.